Hey guys, it's your girl Folasade, the accountability accountant, guys. I am so excited to be here with you guys on this amazing Tuesday. And tonight's show, I consider it action-packed. You may not, but yes, we're talking about the 2021 IRS Dirty Dozen Scam List. So almost every year I tend to bring to light all of the scams that's happening across the board, and tonight is that show. So we don't have a special guest, just me and you guys going through some of the scams that are presently happening right now that the IRS want you as the taxpayer to be well informed of, so you guys can avoid being scammed or taken advantage of. So if you're interested in knowing some of the IRS scams and schemes that they don't want you guys to partake in, then I advise you to tune in tonight's show. If you know of anyone that has fallen into some IRS scams or things like that, just share the video with them. Let them know Folashade's talking and she's going to be teaching about the dirty scams. So guys, do me one favor. Grab your pen, grab your paper, share the video, and head over to bit.ly/TMZ get notified. Join our mailing list so you can know when we're having guests, what our upcoming topics are, what we have in the works, okay? So bit.ly/TMZ get notified. Also, guys, the show, many of you asked me last week, how do you guys view the show after I go live? So if it's within 24 hours of the show, you go to rootradionetwork.com. That is the fastest way for you to see the show. If it's after 24 hours, you can head to any platform that podcast is housed. Type in the Money Zone, and you will be able to partake and enjoy the shows, all of the shows. I'm thinking almost all 6 seasons of the shows are out there, okay? So grab your pen, grab your paper, guys. We're going to take a quick little break, and we'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome to the Money Zone. I'm your host, Folasade, the Accountability Accountant, guys. And tonight's show, we're talking about the 2021 IRS dirty scams that they issue out every year. So, guys, I know you're probably like, I don't want to be scammed, or I've been scammed, or I really don't care. It's three emotions right now if you're watching this show. I don't really care about the IRS scams. Oh, Falashe, I've been scammed. Or I'm interested, but I don't think I'll ever get scammed, okay? So we're going to I'm going to share my screen, guys. And what we're actually going to do, we're going to walk through some of the IRS dirty scams that they are out there. And so many of you don't know, the IRS is pretty hip. Now, they may not be as hip as you and I, right? But they're pretty hip. They know the game. So the first one of the first scams that the IRS is talking about are fake charities, okay? Fake charities, okay? So the IRS say that they advise you guys, okay, to be on alarm or be aware that there's going to be a lot of fake charities popping up, especially since COVID. Everybody is having a COVID relief fund, or everybody's having a vaccination fund, or some type of charity, or we're here to help people that are unable to pay their bills. Everybody is coming up with charities and everything. So the IRS say, hey, boo, don't get caught up falling for these fake charities, because if you guys don't know, three things about charitable contributions, and you guys want to grab your pen and grab your paper, guys. The number one thing about charitable organizations, that if the organization do not have their tax exempt certification, that means your charitable contribution is not a tax deduction. Okay, you cannot write it off. So that is one of the reasons why the IRS want all of you guys to be well aware of the scams that's happening, because if you donate to these charities, you cannot write it off. Okay. The second thing that the IRS wants you to understand is that just because you gave them the money and they said it was a charitable organization, if you don't receive a receipt or some type of awareness, some type of acknowledgement of your payment, then more than likely it's a fake charity. So here's a few tips the IRS said. It says individuals should never let any caller, so you know when people call you doing the cold calls, the IRS say don't let them pressure you, okay? They say a legitimate charity will be happy to get a donation at any time, and it shouldn't be rushed. So if you're on the phone call with somebody and they like, well, you need to hurry up and get this contribution, you're going to miss this, do that, you know, they're just trying to rush you and pressure you. So the IRS say, hey, boo, that's a red flag. Okay. The second thing that says that potential donors, which is you guys, should ask the fundraiser for the charity's exact name. And I just told a client of mine this. You want to get the charity's exact name, web address, and mailing address, so you can now go right to this site, okay, and search under IRS tax exempt organizations, okay, and see whether or not that organization is listed, okay? So if that company is not listed under the tax exemption organization search tool, then more than likely that individual charity is a fake organization, okay? The second thing that the IRS wants you guys to be well aware is the immigrant/senior citizen fraud. They said the IRS, and they're saying individuals are impersonating the IRS, okay, and they're targeting people that are not proficient in English and senior citizens, okay? So they're acting like the IRS, and they're calling and, you know, screening saying that you guys have a warrant for your arrest, or you haven't filed your tax return. They're just coming up with just so many different schemes for you guys to come up out of pocket and pay some fictitious balance that they say that you guys end up owing. They also will use threatening situations like, oh, your licenses will be revoked and things of that nature. And so just so we're all very clear, your licenses do not get revoked because of a federal debt. Now, if you owe your state, right? If you owe your state, then the state has the right to revoke your state licenses. But if you don't have any federal licenses, then yeah, the IRS cannot revoke any of your federal, your state licenses, okay? So the IRS just want all of you guys to be well aware that there's just so much going on. So this is a good one I like, y'all. Offer and compromise meals, okay? So the IRS say, so let me first take a step back. So the offer and compromise is this amazing tool that the IRS allows individuals like myself and you to utilize if you owe a large amount of tax debt and you are unable to pay the tax debt. So if you're unable to pay the tax debt, the IRS has a tool called the offer and compromise, where you will put in a particular offer, and if the IRS accepts it, that means they compromised the total amount that you owed for what you were able to offer them, okay? So the IRS would say, hey, y'all need to be well aware of the offer and compromise scheme that's popping off. So I'm going to read this one completely. It says the offer and compromise meals contort to the IRS program into something it's not, misleading people with no chance of meeting the requirement while charging excessive fees, often thousands of dollars. The IRS said that they're increasingly seeing a concern that people having trouble paying their taxes are being duped into misleading claims about settling their tax debts for pennies on the dollar. I'm going to be really honest with you guys. Those individuals are like my competition. So that's like them Optimum Tax Relief and all of those places. Now, I'm not saying Optimum Tax is a scam. I'm not saying that. I'm just giving an example. One of the popular companies, they actually do situations like this. You keep paying, and I have clients that chose them before they found me, and now paying these people over $500 and something a month, and they have not submitted not one documentation on behalf of my client. So the IRS is saying, be very aware of people saying that they can get your debt settled for pennies on the dollar and using the offer and compromise as a way to get you guys in the door. The IRS said that they want to remind taxpayers to be aware of promoters claiming their services are needed to settle with the IRS, that their tax debts can be settled for pennies on the dollar, or that there is a limited window of time to resolve tax debts through the offer and compromise programs. And guys, that is all lies. So the IRS said, be well aware of the offer and compromise scam. Okay, so the next scam on the list is the unscrupulous, which I call them the black market tax professionals. The black market tax professionals, the IRS call them unscrupulous tax return preparers. They say, although most tax preparers are ethical and trustworthy, like me, taxpayers should be wary of preparers who won't sign their tax return. So guys, I've been saying this for so many years, but many of you don't believe me. When you go to the second page of your 1040 tax return, there should be a person's name, P10, the company's address, who they work for. If they're self-employed, it'll be their company's name. And then it should be their signature on the tax return as well. However, a lot of these unscrupulous tax preparers are using TurboTax to file your tax returns. And then when you get your tax return, if you go to the second page, it says self-prepared. If your return says self-prepared and you paid somebody, that means that they are actually one of those unscrupulous tax return preparers that the IRS is referring to that won't sign your tax returns. So most unscrupulous tax preparers won't sign your tax return. That's one thing, okay? Some of them don't really have the capabilities of e-filing your tax return after tax season. So like, for example, I had a colleague of mine, he's no longer in business. He was a shady tax preparer. His office was in the front of the building. My office was in the back of the building. He had a lot of clients, but I thought just because of his age, he's like my dad's age, you know, they have a lot of clients over time because of their age and all the referrals and stuff. And so lo and behold, y'all, the truth came out. The truth was that he was one of these unscrupulous tax return preparers. He ended up giving me, wanted to see if I can e-file a tax return for him, right? And when I reviewed the tax return, y'all, he had inflated deductions. The client would not have even gotten a refund if they did not overstate all of their itemized deductions. So it was just a mess. But what's so interesting, y'all, about a year later, he ended up getting a case brought against him for tax preparation fraud. Okay, so they may not be able to e-file your tax return after seasons, and they may not have a P10. And if you guys are paying anyone to prepare your taxes, they must have a P10. Okay. They also say unscrupulous tax return preparers may require you to pay them in cash, okay? And more than likely won't provide you a receipt. I've even seen where the return preparer actually won't even give my client a copy of the tax return, or if they did give my client a copy of the tax return, y'all, it was unorganized. Talk about page 4 was in page 8 area. Page 5 was missing. Page 25 was missing, just literally all over the place. And this is what I see common, guys, because if many of you don't know, I'm an IRS enrolled agent. I represent clients against the IRS. So I see all of these fictitious tax returns. I see all of the scams and schemes behind the scenes, okay? The second thing the IRS says fraudulent tax preparers may do, they may invent income for you to qualify for a lot of tax credits. And I'm going to be honest, it's a lot of people. They will call my office and they'll be like, oh, how much could you give me back in my refund? And I'll be like, hey, boo, we can't, I don't go off. We don't charge according to what your refund is. We charge XYZ. Oh, well, the other person would normally say that they can get me this much money back and then take 10% of my refund and just give me the whole spiel, y'all. So that's scamming. If somebody is taking 10% of your tax refund, that's a scam too, y'all. They're only supposed to have a flat fee, and they don't have to have a flat fee. They need to have a reasonable fee, but it's normally not percentage based when it comes to tax preparation. And so the IRS said that the scammers, right, will invent income. So what do they mean by that? They're basically saying that they will say, oh, you have a business, and put fake business income on your tax return so you can now get a tax credit or qualify for the earned income tax credit. I have worked on multiple audits this year, and it was a common theme. 2 of the clients said, well, I didn't even know that they said that I had a business. I didn't have a business, Folasade. So what am I supposed to do? And I'm like, well, you should have reviewed your return. Number 2, should have asked questions. And number 3, you're going to have to pay that money back. Okay? Last but not least, involve the unscrupulous tax return preparers. The IRS said that they also direct refunds into their bank accounts, not the taxpayer's account. And see, this is where the IRS have been jamming up so many of these fraudulent tax preparers because they've gotten so greedy. They've gotten so greedy that they forgot cardinal number rule. We're never supposed to accept your refund. We're never supposed to accept your refund. Okay? We shouldn't even sign it, cash the check, nothing. The moment that they did that, they committed fraud. The moment. Now, let's say if your client don't have a bank account or something like that, that's one client. Now, I don't think the IRS approve of that either, but one time and you give the money directly to your client with no extra fees or nothing like this, and you documented the client signed and everything, they may accept that one time. But if you're going to have multiple people's refunds going to your bank account, that's a red flag. That is the reason why the IRS started to limit deposits into bank accounts. So the IRS now will only deposit 3 refunds max into one account. So if you have a family of 4 and they all using that one account for the refund, not all 4 of them refunds will be deposited, only 3. And the IRS set up those protocols to reduce situations where the preparer is committing fraud or an individual that is scamming people and getting tax refunds and putting it in one bank account. So the IRS said, 3 deposits limits, okay? All right, so the next dirty dozen scam the IRS is talking about, guys, is the unemployment insurance fraud. And so, guys, I'm going to be very honest with y'all. What many of you all don't understand is that when you guys obtain income illegally, do you know tax law still states that you are actually supposed to still claim that income, which now leads to you now doing tax fraud. But if you don't file the tax return, they can, end up catching you up that way. But if you file the tax return for your scam income, man, it's considered tax preparation fraud and everything else. So the IRS said that this unemployment fraud often involves individuals acting in coordination with or against employers and financial institutions to get state and local assistance to which they are not entitled to. These scams can pose problems that can adversely affect taxpayers in the long run. Okay? They said number one unemployment insurance fraud scam is identity theft. Okay? So they're saying that some people are going out using your names and filing for unemployment. I've even seen that, guys, where a client of mine tried to submit their own insurance claim and it was already someone else receiving unemployment insurance under their name. So my client had to prove that she didn't own that bank account where the money was being deposited and that the address that they had on file wasn't hers. It was just a mess, y'all, okay? So they also are hip to their employer/employee collusion fraud. So that's basically where you, the employee, and your employer collude, that means come together to scam unemployment. So your job is paying you, but they're not reporting the income on W-2 or 1099, and you then go and file for unemployment. Y'all split the pot and everyone's happy. The IRS said that is fraud. The moment that you make money, it is supposed to be reported either on W-2 or 1099 or something. And if an employee is still employed, they should not be receiving unemployment. The third insurance scam is the misrepresentation of income. Now, this is where a lot of my small business owners, you guys are going to get yourself in some deep shit come when they do their review, because you guys didn't do your bookkeeping, as I've been asking you guys to do for all of these years, and you put down the wrong income. They asked you how much was your income, boo. You said 3,000 when you know, well, you really didn't know because you didn't know your bookkeeping, when you actually made $4,500. So guys, if you don't know, the moment that you put down an incorrect number due to your negligence, it can still be considered fraud and a misrepresentation of facts, okay? So what will happen is that falls right into the dirty dozen scam of unemployment. All right, so then the IRS says insider fraud, where you guys got a connection inside the state unemployment department, and they've been seeing a rise in that as well, where you and her or him or her, y'all work together, you're filing the claims, they're approving it, and everybody wins besides the states and the small businesses. So why am I referring to some of these dirty scams? Well, many of you guys don't know the impact these scams have on the overall economy of your state or in general or on the federal level. So let's say, for example, Maryland incurred $30 million in unemployment fraud. That might be where it is per state, actually, right? The individual businesses like myself and my clients and us that pay unemployment, what will happen is this. They're going to increase our rates so they now can collect more unemployment taxes from us on a quarterly basis. So they can now recover the loss that they sustain from all of the fraudulent claims. So in the future, us business owners are going to be negatively impacted and have to pay more taxes. And that means that will reduce our bottom line. We're going to keep less money in our pockets due to y'all going out and scamming unemployment. Another issue, unemployment is self-funded per state. Now, the federal give them a certain portion per state based on the agreement and the budget that they signed, but unemployment is self-driven through the states. And if your state filed for bankruptcy or the unemployment fund gets completely depleted, when people actually really need to file for unemployment, the funds will no longer be there. So you guys may not see the negative impact on your actions today, but it actually have a very bad impact on us business owners in the future, because Maryland, DC, all of these states, New York are going to look at the losses and increase our rates. That means losses. And if we have to pay more unemployment, we're not going to hire more. So in turn, it is a complete ripple effect. So when you guys commit this type of fraud, we're still responsible. We're still responsible, guys. There's no save-a-hole. No, we are the ones that save the government. I don't think many of you fully understand that the government is ran and owned by us. If we don't pay taxes, the government cannot fully function. So please be mindful that anything that y'all steal from the government, they're going to recover it through taxes. They're going to. It's no way around it. Okay, so guys, I'm about to pull up maybe one or two more dirty dozen scams. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a quick little break, okay? And then we're going to talk about the few other dirty dozen scams that's out there. And we're just going to have some open dialogue. So if you guys have any questions, head over to Facebook or ripradionetwork.com. If you post your comments, I can actually see your comments live and can answer your comments throughout the show. But one thing I want you guys to be mindful of is that you are still responsible for everything that goes on your tax return. You are solely responsible for everything. So if someone puts something shady on your tax return, it doesn't matter. You're responsible, okay? So guys, what we're about to do is take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Your refund is not something extra, okay? That's another thing. Y'all see here, not even understanding that if you broke, you do need to find somebody to help you with your coins. I don't know why y'all think that accountants and financial advisors only work for the rich. Hell no! I had to financially advise myself to even get to where I am now. Shit, when I was getting refunds, I had to financially advise myself on how to use the refunds. Like, guys, my story, I used my actual tax refund to build my business. I really did. I had Brim. Brim was born 2012. Started the business 2011, August. I got my refund and I put it right back into the business. I didn't have employees then. I didn't have a big office. I didn't have all of the stuff that we got right now, right? I put it back into the business. So I had to financially advise myself too. So regardless of how much money you have or how much money you don't have, are you being smart with what you have? Are you going to do right with what you have? Make some investments. Save some stuff. Start your business. Do some things. But the last thing I want you guys to do is just fuck it up. And that's been one of my drinks. That's my little Drake song. No, that's the last thing I want you guys to do, because we're still treading light waters right now, y'all. I don't know when we're going to get out of all of this mess. And I don't see anything happening overnight, because there's too much policies happening. They haven't even really niched down and say who deserved what or who's supposed to get what. Biden is putting in so many executive orders and doing so much that they're blindly not even seeing that we're developing more and more problems as we're growing, as we're moving. So that's another story. We talk about taxes today. Do not file your taxes via TurboTax. I know you cheapskates and all of y'all like, Folasade, here you go again with this nonsense. Y'all know, every year I say it because I want you guys to do better. And let me give you a real live example of why TurboTax is never really that satisfying for all of you. Okay, number one, I had a client call. They've already paid their invoice and moved forward, but they called the office. Randy called them and scheduled a meeting with me, right? And so the first thing that the individual and his wife was saying was that they're not certain that they've been able to maximize
Hey guys, welcome back to the Money Zone. I'm your host, Folasade, the Accountability Accountant, guys. And on tonight's show, we were talking about the 2021 IRS dirty scams that they, mention every year for you guys to be well aware of, okay? We talked about the unscrupulous tax preparers, what to look for. So if you missed out on that, head over to ripradionetwork.com, check out the replay, take a note so you can be aware and be informed next year. So if you decide not to work with me, at least you will know what to look for, right? The second thing the IRS said look out for is unemployment scams. And I actually explained to you guys the negative impact that unemployment scams will have on the economy of your state and the impact to small businesses, okay? The other dirty scam the IRS said is look out for scams directed towards immigrants and senior citizens, because you guys are vulnerable. Immigrants don't speak English very well, and seniors are old and kind of delusional a little bit. Sorry, guys, but they want to protect you. So here's the deal, guys. One thing I want you guys to take from tonight's episode is to fully understand that the moment you mismanage your business money, or the moment you mismanage your deductions or anything like that, and you go and say, okay, I know I'm not doing my bookkeeping, but I'm going to put that I made $50,000 in my business. That's fraud. You knowingly put the wrong information. So many of you are actually committing fraud every day in your businesses, and it's going to eventually catch up down the line, and it's going to catch up with many of you now, especially since we're in the realm where Biden is trying to get $40 billion to fund the IRS. This is why I created my program, Audit Proof, because I want to prepare you guys for the wave of audits that are going to come. And they're going to come to you guys because the IRS have to recover the money from the pandemic that they gave out. Okay, so the IRS commissioner said in his statement to the public that they will not stop until they prosecute everybody. He didn't say we will stop once we prosecute 15% or the majority. He said all scams. So if you guys are committing tax scams, PPP scams, unemployment scams, tax preparation fraud scam, it's all going to come to its head, guys, because guess what? Biden is not going to stop until he get that $40 billion. So he can fund the IRS, because he's already calculated that if they can just go after the unpaid amounts, which is $1 trillion, then they will be able to recover a lot of the money that they gave out. But the problem is this: Biden don't realize that if he end up having y'all audited, he's going to recover in the upside of maybe 20-something trillion dollars, because of the amount of fraud that is happening every day by everyday people. And many of you guys don't even know that your lack of bookkeeping, your lack of proper record keeping, your lack of structure, your lack of discipline will allow you to fit right on this dirty dozen scam list, because you have now scammed your business. And you scam your business because you don't have the proper basic information that all businesses are supposed to have, which is what was the total revenue and records and proof of all the expenses that is claimed on that tax return. So the moment that you know that your information is inaccurate, but you decide to still file that tax return, you have committed one of these dirty dozen scams, because that's exactly what the unscrupulous tax preparers do. They just put down anything. They put down any type of income, any type of credits, any type of deduction, just so you guys can get a higher refund. And if that's what you guys are doing, you're on the list, boo. The IRS is coming. Me and my team, we will be waiting by the call. By the phone, when you guys start to get that audit notices, when you guys get those examination notices. And I hope that you guys don't think I'm a joke, because every time I say it, it happens. Every time. I've predicted almost every situation. Trump taxes, I predicted. Biden taxes, I predicted. This audit, I predicted. Everything that I've said to you guys first here on the Money Zone, you guys have been pre-warned. Get your stuff in order. Get your accounting, get your bookkeeping. Stop dealing with these fraudulent tax return preparers. Stop it, because you are responsible. And I don't think many of you guys know this. So let's say the return preparer puts some fraudulent stuff in your tax return. You are still responsible. So if you end up owing $5,000, it's not the tax preparer that's responsible to pay that. You are responsible. And let me be very honest with all of you, because many of you don't understand this, that even if you were to sue the tax preparer, they will probably only be responsible for the penalties associated with the additional tax, not the additional tax. because you knew something was wrong. But we don't want to have that discussion today. Many of you know you're dealing with skeptical people, but because that fee only $150, or because all of your cousins and your nephews and this people go there, or because the H&R Block is right down the street, you just slow poke your way into it and not even knowing what you have gotten yourself into. This year, guys, between the few audits and examinations and offering compromise that me and my team we put in so far as of June, in the upwards about $1 million+ in the upwards, and that's between about 10 clients. So if the IRS beginning to audit 10% of small businesses, and all of you guys are taking all of these deductions because y'all influencers said, oh, well, you can deduct your nails. Oh, you can deduct this. Oh, you can deduct that, right? That's how they be. Not even telling you that it has to be a strategy behind it. Not even telling you that it needs to be ordinary and necessary. So you guys are claiming expenses and doing all of this stuff, not keeping your paperwork in order, and just not doing things right. And guess what you're going to end up? Fraud. For all of y'all businesses that was making money and you receive an unemployment, fraud. If you didn't report the amount of revenue that your business made, fraud. I honestly feel like, if this is completely off tonight's topic, I feel like that all of this happened, not the pandemic, all of this money, scams, and everything was to just get, my brown folks caught up. Yeah, some white people can go down. But because us black people are so desperate and just want to be rich, just want the fast life and all that stuff, I think the Department of Justice is going to do a good little clean sweep, y'all, and we just going to be assed out. Our community is we're about to perish just from these PPP loans, the EIDL scams, and the tax scams that y'all had to do along with it, the unemployment scams. I'm worried. So that's all I got for you guys. Don't forget to join my masterclass this Thursday, July 29th. You have one more day to register. I'm going to be teaching you guys how to audit proof your tax deductions, your tax credits, and your expenses. So if you do receive that audit notice, you won't be scrambling. You'll have your stuff organized. You'll have your records. You'll have everything that you need to present to the IRS agent. I'm also going to teach you guys the key to really being able to deduct everything. And nobody's telling y'all that, because to be very honest with you, not too many people defend taxpayers in audits. So a CPA, whoever, EA, whoever, whatever they are, if they have not represented clients in audits, they do not know how it is or how heavily scrutinized your records are in an audit. So they tell y'all, oh, boo, you can deduct this, you can do all of this, but not telling you guys what needs to be done to be able to back it up if you get audited. And that's what I'm actually going to teach you. I'm going to teach you guys how I win 99% of my audits, how I prepare my clients when they're in audits, and then I'm going to give you the pros and cons and all of the tips and tricks that you guys need to be able to maximize all of your deductions and write it off. So if you're struggling with getting things in place and knowing what to deduct and what records you need to keep and this and that, then you want to join my masterclass, auditproofclass.com. Go to auditproofclass.com. Register, because registration ends Thursday at 12 p.m., guys. So that's all I got. Stop scamming. Let's work. Let's make money. See y'all next week. Good night.